Hey, caregiver family. I am so grateful that you've chosen to listen to another episode of the My Favorite Girl Caregivers Corner podcast. If you've never listened to the podcast before, I'd like to say welcome and thank you so much for listening. For those of you that have continued to listen over and over, I want to also say thank you and welcome back to this episode. Hey, listen, I say this every time, but if you haven't done so already, take a moment right now to subscribe to the podcast from whichever platform you are listening on. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and of course on the website at www.priscillajjohnlouis.com. Once you subscribe, then do me a favor and go ahead and share it with your family and friends, especially those that you know who are serving as caregivers. And as always, I'd also like to take this moment to thank you to those of you who are following me on social media. Follow me on Facebook at My Favorite Girl and Alzheimer's. We're also on YouTube, and that's at My Favorite Girl Caregivers Corner Podcast. And I'm over there on TikTok at My Favorite Girl and Alls. And if you've ever looked at my TikTok page, then you know I share video with myself and my mom, who I affectionately call My Favorite Girl. And sometimes we're over there cutting up. Sometimes it's just lately I've been doing what I've coined to be just conversations with my favorite girl. She's not doing a whole lot of talking as far as conversations that we can understand, but she talks and she understands well enough for us to do what we do. And so we share those moments as well. And then, of course, there's also information out there to help motivate, educate, and inspire those of you who are caring. And so that's the whole purpose of this. So jump on over there on the social media platforms and go ahead and subscribe and like it. And then share those platforms with your friends as well, so they too can get in on this and be able to be inspired to care. All right. And so, again, this is season 5. We're in season 5, episode 4. And tonight I am excited, or today on this episode, I'm excited to have a special guest with me again. For those that have been listening, you know, over the last couple episodes, what we've been doing is sharing resources. And these resources are for those in our community, some of them in our local community, some of them, you know, are resources that you can find wherever you are. But this week, our topic of conversation is going to be healing through music, how music therapy supports emotional and mental awareness. And so I am excited on tonight to have another special guest with me. I actually met her a couple weeks ago over at the senior center, where we have not a caregiving, but a senior coalition. And she was there as the presenter, presenting her music therapy. And it was so much fun. I enjoyed the session there, and I knew at that moment that I wanted to bring her onto the podcast to talk about what it is she does through music therapy. And so just to introduce her, her name is Kristin Spengler. If hopefully I didn't mess it up, and she will correct me when she comes in, but she is a private practice music therapist with Healing Hearts Music Therapy in Tallahassee, Florida. She has worked in assisted living and memory care settings from a young age, and now applies her passion for this population to her work in music therapy. She currently provides group and individual music therapy services for overall wellness and cognitive stimulation in memory care, assisted living, independent living, and Alzheimer's project respite rooms. And so it is she who is joining me on this episode. And so, Kristin, thank you so much. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Yes, it's an honor. I'm so glad to be here, and it's always a good time to just chat with another fellow music lover. So I know we're going to have fun today.
Awesome. Yes, we are. And so we're just going to go ahead and jump into the conversation. You know, this podcast is really just a conversational podcast. We have a conversation and we just talk. And so we're going to jump over into it. And so the first question I want to ask you is, can you tell us a bit about your background and how you first got involved in music therapy?
Yes, absolutely. So it's been a long journey. When I was 5, I started piano lessons, and at the age of 14, I was looking for a volunteer opportunity. My piano teacher said, "Hey, why don't you try playing for a memory care unit?" And so I jumped into the opportunity without any information as to what dementia was, what it entailed. And I remember my first day, I went in and sat down and played a little bit of what I like to call like elevator music. So it was kind of that soothing background music, and the ladies kind of hated it. They just didn't really connect at first, and I just remember them screaming and just being upset. Um, and so at the end of the hour, I threw my books in the bag and I ran to my mom, who was waiting in the car, and I cried to her and I said, "I don't want to do this, Mom." And my mom, being the person that she is, she said, just stick with it, make some adjustments, try some new things. And so I did. And I thought to myself, maybe I'm just not doing the music that they like. So I started trying to sing while playing the piano instead, and getting some of those songs from the childhood of these individuals. And that's when I really started to see a difference. And I didn't really think that this was something I wanted to do for a career until I had this one moment with this individual who I would say was in later stage dementia. And she was at that point where a lot of things she said didn't make sense. It was that sort of word salad. And I start playing this one song called The Band Played On. And I hear her sing along with me. And I finish the song, and she's looking up at me, and I'm looking up at her, and she's smiling. And she has this completely lucid conversation with me where she tells me, my brother was a concert pianist, and he was just so amazing. And when I was a little girl, I got to go sit in the front row of the concert hall and watch my brother play. And he played that song. He played The Band Played On.
Oh,
and I
wow.
wish you could have met him. And it was this moment for me where I thought, oh my goodness, what I'm doing is here is it's like transcending these barriers a little bit. Like the music itself is transcending these barriers of communication. And so I really felt that in that moment. And that's kind of what set me on this path of looking into careers that aligned with doing that. And so I met someone and discussed with them and found out music therapy is a career. You can do this for a living. And went off to FSU to study, completed an internship with Healing Hearts, and here I am.
That's pretty awesome. So you started out playing the piano, and so
Mm-hmm.
versatile, I see, because when I met you over at the senior center, you were playing the guitar. So you sing, you play the piano, you play the guitar. Any other instrument?
Do a little triangle too. Does that count?
Okay. I mean, that's and that's the beautiful thing about it, right? When you can connect, especially with
Absolutely.
those who are living with Alzheimer's or one of the other forms of dementia, being able to connect with them and bring them back to that space of just remembering, even if it's just for a moment, I'm sure that is very rewarding for you.
Mm-hmm.
As you stated, just to be able to realize, like, wow, to go from that 14-year-old who had people screaming and saying, we don't like it, we don't want it, to now there's a connection, that I'm sure had to be very rewarding for you. And so, wow, is all I can say. I mean, how long have you been playing the guitar?
Yeah, so that was a requirement of my major. everyone who goes into the music therapy major at FSU has to learn guitar. So it was brand new to me, but they really were very thorough about our guitar education. So it got to a point in certain classes where you had to submit a repertoire list of something like 60 memorized songs, and then they would you would stand in front of the class and they'd say, okay, we want this one, sing it for everybody. And so yeah, it
So you had to sing
becomes,
too?
yes, yep, sing and play the guitar.
Oh my. So they didn't
Yes,
really matter whether or not you could hold a tune. You just had to sing and play.
absolutely. Yep. I think that's how they work the stage fright out of you, right? You just keep getting up in front of everyone and doing it.
Yeah, because I know when you were over at Senior Center, you seemed as if there was absolutely no fear at all. And you played the music and you had the other little instruments. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I was, I enjoyed it. I am a music lover. And so, the beats and all of that, I was excited. And I mean, to have so many people in the room that day with different instruments. Well, we call them instruments. You had, what are they called? The little plastic. They were different
Oh
sizes.
yes, yeah, boom whackers,
The
right?
boom whackers, and they were different
Yes,
sizes. And you had us, and it was very calming, and I enjoyed it. So, very good. So maybe I need to go over to FSU and learn how to, go into music there because I love music. And maybe,
yes,
no, that's definitely a joke. I'm not gonna do that. Okay. So, you've been doing this now, you said since you were 14. I'm not gonna ask you your age, but um, with the years of experience, and you said that you started with Healing Hearts Music Therapy, and that is located here in Tallahassee. And from what I understand, um, you all have been serving our community here in Tallahassee for over 15 years. So, can you tell me about Healing Hearts Music Therapy? What is it that you all offer there?
absolutely. So Healing Hearts is a private practice. And I believe at this time we have 16 contractors. So it's
Oh, my.
really been expanding. And I'd say the majority of contractors have contracts with children. I more so delve into the older adult area. But so we have people in preschools, we have people in middle schools, high schools, grade schools. We have in special education, lots of individual clients working on their specific goals. And of course, older adults with the respite groups, the Alzheimer's Project respite groups, memory care, assisted living, independent living. So it's quite the spectrum from very young to all the way to memory care.
Okay. So you do pediatric
Mhm.
to geriatric, basically.
Absolutely.
Okay, and so you have the different therapists that are there through your practice who will go out to these different locations. And so when it comes to pairing your therapist with either the geriatric or the pediatric, how do you pair them up? I mean, is it just are some of you all just, I know you said that you deal mostly with the older population, and so is it like a special emphasis that a particular music therapist would have for say geriatric or say pediatric, or is it that you all can go and do your therapy with either group,
Yes,
or do you have a preference?
it's oh yes, yeah, that's a great question. It's really um, in some ways it's sort of the kinds of clients that come to you.
Okay.
So in my case, because I interned with Healing Hearts, I did get that exposure to everything from babies all the way to geriatrics, like you said. And so I take all kinds of clients personally of all ages because I enjoy that. But if a therapist says, I'm only comfortable with this one age group, then they get contracts with just that one age group. So yeah,
Okay.
preference.
Okay. And I shared with you a little bit before we came on. When I was 19 years ago, when I had my youngest daughter, I had a music therapist that just happened to be at the hospital at that particular time when I was in labor, and they were going, of course I wasn't in active labor, but just, having contractions here and there. And so she was walking around just asking different ones on the floor whether or not, we were interested, or if she could just come in and play. And so, I definitely obliged and allowed her to come in. And it was very soothing, just to have her there, and to be able to hear the music. Now, it didn't really stop my contractions. It just takes your mind off the contractions, of course. But I think that was one of the, you know, greatest things that they could do at that particular time as well, just allowing that type of therapy into the hospitals. And so when you talk about the going into, like, for instance, school settings, how does that work? So if your client comes and they have a child that's in grade school or what have you, you go to the school where they are and have your sessions, or how does that work?
Yes, yes, we work out a time with the teachers. So lots of driving in.
Okay, so you'll go to the school. So they have a room that they'll put you and that particular client in, and you just walk me through what a therapy session would look like, whether it's at a school or whether it's at the facility. But even if it's individualized therapy, how does that work?
Yeah, so all of the above, a little bit of each, you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. So with schools, we're looking at kind of the curriculum of what the child is learning in class, or maybe that entire class is learning. So if they're, say, learning spelling or learning new vocabulary words, we might use music as a mnemonic device to help them to remember those things.
Oh,
So yeah, yeah. So it's kind of neat. So we work with the teachers, we work with the special education professionals, and we design what kinds of activities we want to do. And we'll jump from classroom to classroom at a school, and just provide activities that are tailored to them.
okay. All right. Never even ever thought about that, but that's pretty neat. And so are you in one full classroom, or is it, individualized, or both? It just depends on the client.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely depends. So we do have the group sessions where we work on those academic goals, kind of those behavioral goals, using music and getting them using that excitement about music to also work on those behavioral goals. But then we also have individuals that we go and visit in schools, and so we might work with their teacher or their parent to say to work on drafting a treatment plan for that child,
Okay.
and thinking, yeah, using their favorite music to help them achieve their individualized goals.
Okay. So you'll take their music, you'll learn their music, and then you go and play and just allow them to. I'm not sure how the music therapy, goes, but you'll take their music. You have to learn their music and all of
In
that.
some cases, yes, yes. And then sometimes we'll bring some songs and activities that are just fun. Would you like me to provide a specific example of a child that I've worked with?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So, for example, I have one child in a school who's working on things like anxiety. And so, specifically related to just um, housing instability and things like that. And so, one thing that we work on is doing songwriting to express those feelings. So, and we pick songs that we can rewrite that the client really enjoys, like Into the Unknown from Frozen. and we talk about how we're going into the unknown, but we're going to face it with bravery, and talk about the coping skills that we're going to use to go through that. So that's an example. And there's so many other ways. Some children are more, we're kind of talking more about learning to communicate, to play together, to use impulse control, because music kind of gets you to wait until that beat, right? Or wait until that word, and then we'll play the drum. And that's a really tricky executive functioning skill. So there's so many things we work on, which
Okay.
individual children.
Okay, that's pretty neat. Especially, I didn't realize either that you get into like the songwriting side of it, but that definitely, I love that. And then just allowing them that opportunity, because I'm sure, and it's also something that I'm sure that they look forward to, especially if I get to write a song with Miss Kristin, and we're going to change it. So that's pretty neat. I'm learning as well. So awesome. Thank you for what you do. So let me ask you this question. What are the key differences between music therapy and simply listening to music for enjoyment and relaxation? Again, I love music. I absolutely love it. I do think that music is soothing depending on what you're listening to, but what is the difference between the two?
Absolutely. So we're a credentialed professional that has to go through a 4-year degree program. So there's first that. But then as compared to sitting down and listening to your favorite song, right? You just kind of pick a song that you like and you think, okay, this will make me feel relaxed. And sometimes that works really great. A music therapist will, they'll assess where are we and where do we want to be. And there's this cool word called ISO principle that I learned in my days of FSU. And it means we take the music and we meet the person at the mood they're at, and we work to a different mood, the mood that we want to be at. So say we're anxious, I might pick a song with a really fast tempo that kind of meets where we're at. And for example, maybe something like Heartbreak Hotel, something that's got this tension in it. And then we might work our way down to something with a slower tempo, maybe like a little Walking After Midnight, and then all the way down to something very soothing, like I've Got Peace Like a River. And then as we're going, research shows that our heartbeat entrains to the beat of music, and so it can really just soothe us. So that's one example of how it's different than just listening to music. Is we assess the moment and we say, where are you, where do you want to be, and we craft the music and we create very specific goals to get to where we want to be with that music.
Okay, pretty awesome. So that means that I can't just listen to music and then think that I'm going to give you some therapy with the music. It just doesn't work like that. You need to go to school and learn how to do this. I love that. That's absolutely, I've never even considered it, even though, like I said, I've had one experience, literally just one experience with a music therapist, and never even considered what it is you do. So, thank you for even all that I'm learning in this moment as well. And so, you talk about you going into the assisted livings, the group homes, the independent living, and all of that. And it seems like, you have found your place there. And, I love anytime I find anybody who is excited about going into facilities, especially with those with Alzheimer's and dementia. I'm always appreciative of people who don't mind spending time. When you're around it all the time and you see how people sometimes can stay away from people who are living with dementia. I'm always grateful when I have someone who's like, no, I love this, and so when you're growing and are going rather in those settings, with that, you stated that you work with the Alzheimer's Project in their respite rooms. And so I do have knowledge of that. My mom and my grandmother, prior to COVID, they were going once a week until my mom kind of got kicked out.
Oh.
But different story, different day. But I absolutely the Alzheimer's Project. I love what they do and the services that they offer. And so when you go into those type settings, what is that like for you when you go in? Because is that volunteer? Or that's a contract.
That's a contract to go into the
Okay.
respite rooms.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I love the intimacy of the respite rooms because I know since you've experienced them, they're usually not huge groups.
Right.
And I love that service for caregivers that and the fact that their loved one has a community of people that they can spend the day with is so neat. But yeah, what I do is I come in for 45 minutes of music once a week for each respite room has a music therapist from Healing Hearts, as far as I know. And we provide that music for kind of stimulating the mind, asking those questions to see if we have memories linked with those songs. And of course, maybe some dancing, playing some instruments to some Elvis,
So
playing a
you get
game
them
to
hyped
see.
up like you did us at the senior center. You bring out the sticks and all that for them.
Yes, yeah. Maybe playing some boom whackers, getting some recorded music. It's quite the party. It really is.
Hey, if they have as much fun as we did, I really want to come and check that session out. Are they usually on
Yes.
with it when you're doing it for the most part?
See what?
Do they usually stay on beat with you when you're doing that part with them over at the respite rooms, respite
Yes,
care?
we have some really musical people in the respite rooms. Everyone's got that steady beat.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna come check that out one day because I just want to see how that works, with them. And so,
Mm-hmm.
even while you're mentioning the caregiver, I do want to transition over into that side of it because what you do, you serve, a lot of those who are the ones that are receiving the care. But I understand that you also provide services for the caregivers themselves. And so, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So sometimes the caregiver can be in the room when the session is taking place. And so we can use the music to help the caregiver connect with their loved one. So maybe writing a song together, singing together, just encouraging them to put their hand on their shoulder while they're singing or to be a part of that process. But then also we can provide tools and tips and tricks to caregivers, such as maybe, and you saw this at my presentation, we did this breathing app where we breathed in and out to music for a set amount of minutes. And so that's the trick. Progressive muscle relaxation, like tensing up the fist and letting go of that tension, or tensing up the shoulders and letting go of that tension, and things of that nature. So there's lots of little music involved tips and tricks that we can provide to caregivers that they can take home to use each day as they give.
Okay, because that definitely helps to break down some of the stress when you're doing those. Because
Mm-hmm.
gave us a rubber band, and we put that rubber band there, and was able to do the breathing, and it is definitely, at least for me, it was very, very relaxing. And sometimes, especially as caregivers, that's all you need. You need those moments to, and I think you encouraged us while we were there to take the time to utilize those techniques at least once a day, once or twice a day, to be able to just step back and just, okay, I'm just going to do this breathing exercise. And it was very simple, something very simple that can definitely help you in the long run, especially if you're caring for those with dementia, because it gets to be a whole lot sometimes. And so sometimes you do have to, as we say, take that woosah, and that woosah may just be, let me breathe, let me breathe. I've found, just with general music, itself, even for my mom, sometimes if she's in a mood, I'll put the music on, and before you know it, she's sitting there, bobbing her head, clapping her hands sometimes. Just depends on what's going on. But that music is very calming as well, for those living with dementia. And so thank you, even for that, because again, those techniques wouldn't have found, and you showed it to us on YouTube. So we can go out there. Matter of fact, can you share that? Um, well, you can't share the actual YouTube, but what is it called? So, those who that
Yeah.
want it can go and find it on YouTube.
Yes. So it's an app called the Breathing app. It's free, and it just has this little ball that expands as you breathe and contracts as you breathe out, and it's great. And there's a couple other great apps I'm thinking of. There's Jog FM that takes your heartbeat and entrains the music to your heartbeat. That's another great one. And
Jog.app. I mean,
yeah, jog.fm, I want to say, is what it
okay.
is. Yeah. And I believe there's another app called Relax Melodies that it has like different guided grounding techniques, and it creates like ocean sounds or different kind of sounds that might be soothing. So there's a lot of good little apps that we can provide and tips and tricks for caregivers.
Okay. All right. And what I'm going to do is I will get that information from you as well, and I will put it on the website. So it'll be up under the podcast resources. And so I'll put those out there so that people can go on there. And I'm telling you, just from my own experience, it was very, very relaxing. Now, I will be honest in saying I haven't done it probably as much as I should since I left your session. But I'm going to, especially when I get these apps, because anything helps. Anything that can help, I'm here for it. And so I'll get that information from you as well. So let me ask this question, because I know that they are there, but what are some of the biggest misconceptions about music therapy that you wish people understood better?
Oh, absolutely. I'd say we're not entertainers. We are entertaining, but there's a lot going on under the surface there. There's a lot of assessing and thinking, and then of course it's not just singing or playing a guitar. It's engaging the whole group with instruments and songwriting and discussion. So there's so much more than just being an entertainer.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I can definitely see how people can think, oh, she's going to come and perform for us. And this is not a
Right.
performance. This is therapy. This is healing. Even as our conversation topic, healing through music, and how music therapy supports emotional and mental wellness. And so you didn't spend that time at FSU just to become an entertainer. But, I guess I would put it on the scale as I would just regular therapy. The only difference is music is being added. Is that a good assessment?
I think that's a great assessment. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so, even from this conversation that we're having, and I want to make sure too that I also talk about the individual services. You hit on it a little bit, but tell me a little bit more about your individual services and your group services, that healing music therapy. If I'm somebody who is saying, you know what, maybe this is a good idea. Maybe I have a child who I think can benefit. Your example of the one that you're working with, with the song Frozen, and just, that example, I've never thought about that. But maybe there's a parent who's saying, my child is having some challenges. Um, how can I, get these services for my child, or, here's a group here. Tell me about those services and how people can just reach out to you to take advantage if they'd like to.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah. So when it comes to individual services, there's a lot of different avenues of funding, especially for children. So I know that you can discuss that with my boss as far as things like, say, if it's Medicaid or grants or private pay. And just say, this is my child. We think that he or she would benefit from these services, and go from there. And or for example, if you have a loved one that you're a caregiver for, you can certainly reach out to all the information, which I can see it scrolling down there, the Healing Hearts music therapy information. So you can reach out via my boss's phone. Her name's Stephanie, and you can shoot her a text or a call or an email, and see if that's something you're interested in. Now, I did catch. So you were asking, okay, how do we find these services? But also tell me a little bit about what they are, right?
Right. A little bit about what they are. Correct.
Yes. Yeah. So again, it's so tailored to the individual. So I feel like the only way I can really tell you about it is just specific stories. So, for example, one client that I have, his wife had just gone into the hospital, so he'd been experiencing some confusion and some depression, and so it was really, and I just really love this client. It's really been a great journey with him. And we went from this state of, just discussing and sort of the counseling side of things of, just, it's really hard having someone you love in the hospital, and got to a point where we were crying, and or I will say he was crying, and then we started singing, and we get to this point where he's just saying, I'm just so happy to be here. I'm just so happy to join in a song. And by the end of the session, he's like, I'm going to practice so much before our next session. And his granddaughter sends me an email later, and he says, my grandfather usually can't remember a lot of things, but for the entire day, he has been telling me he just can't wait to see his new friend and sing a song again. So there's just those fulfilling moments that you get with individual clients.
Right. And so I want to backtrack just a little bit with the services. So
Absolutely.
because this is a practice, and so there is a fee. This is not a free service. There is a fee associated with it, but you all take insurances. Correct me
Yes,
if
and
I'm
I
wrong.
should clarify. At least in this state, I don't believe insurances apply for older adults. I think they only
Okay.
do for children. And I hope someday we can make it where insurances do apply. But at this point, it's just private pay, I believe, for older adults.
Oh wow. Now that
Mm-hmm.
that kind of sucks in a major way,
Yeah.
and because it should be open for everybody. But at any rate, so you do have your private pay, but then is that on a scale? Is that based on income? Is it based on certain criteria, or is it just a flat rate for individuals who come in?
It's based on certain criteria, so time and
Okay.
the travel for the therapist and things like that. And my boss is really willing to work on those things with the individual, I believe. So I would certainly discuss it with her, since she's the one who
Absolutely.
has a bit
Absolutely.
more knowledge. Mm-hmm.
Yep, I totally understand it. And I think those success stories, like the ones you share, those are important, because again, I see it as just therapy. The only component is you're adding in the music. And to be able to take somebody from a state of depression and, feeling hopeless to excitement, that alone is, to me, worth it. It is worth every bit of it. Now, how long how long are clients seeing a therapist? Is there a certain amount of time that you all give to them, or is it just as long as they desire? I mean, I'm sure you have them on some type of a plan, but what is the length of time that one therapist can spend with a particular client?
It again varies, I suppose, on the client's how much they would like to pay for, how much they would like to be there for. I often see older adults for about 45 minutes,
Okay.
and children typically for 30 minutes. And
Okay.
yeah, that's my typical individual client, varies between 30 to 45 minutes, I would say.
Okay. And so,
Mhm.
what's the length of time that they continue with the therapy? Is that, I mean, the ongoing, is it you have a cutoff? Is it like, okay, we'll see them for 6 months or for a year, or it just depends on the progression?
Yeah, I would say it depends on the progression, and I think because music is so unique in that, if you're a music lover, you're always a music lover. I think we have a lot of clients that really stick with it for a long time, and
Okay.
there's always new things that we can work on ourselves, and so sometimes goals just adapt over the years, and sometimes clients leave when they feel that they're in a good place. So
Okay.
depends.
All right. I love everything about it. And so listen, you all, again, this is Healing Hearts Music Therapy. And so contact them. Their Facebook, you can go to Healing Heart Music Therapy. And then the website is www.healingheartsmusictherapy.com. And then you can also contact the administrator. Her name is Stephanie. And that email address is administrator@healingheartsmusictherapy.com. Or you can reach her by phone at 229 400 0722. Again, 229 400 0722. And so I'm going to ask you one additional question here, Kristin. And that's going to be, if there's one thing you hope people take away from today's conversation about music therapy, what would it be?
Hmm, that is a great question. Um, I guess I'd just say I just truly believe that music is created by God, and that it really has this ability of transcending those barriers of communication, like I said before, but also connecting us to each other and connecting us to Him. And I, yeah, I strongly believe in it, and I think if any of you music lovers out there ever get a chance to see music therapy too, I think you'll see the magic of it as well. And so that's my hope. You get to experience it someday in some way, or just to see it. Um, that's my final note.
Okay. And if there are those out there like Kristen who, she started at 14 volunteering, not knowing that music therapy was really a thing, if you feel like that's something that you really love and would like to go into that arena, here's another career path for you, just in case you were searching for one. And then
Mhm.
one final thing that I do want to mention as well, on February 15th, I'm sorry, next Saturday, the Alzheimer's Project is having their Caregivers Conference. And Stephanie is going to be there participating at the Alzheimer's Project Conference. And it is it's open to everybody, but you have to register. You have to register for the conference, and it's going to be held at FSU. I'm going to include some additional information regarding that conference at the end of this podcast. So keep listening. And so, Stephanie, Kristin, Is there anything in particular you would like to share with the audience regarding the conference?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will be the one at the conference on the 15th, and I will just be providing a mini respite room actually for anyone who is like a loved one of the caregivers, that they can go off and be a part of the conference. So if anyone is bringing their family members, and I believe if you're signed up, maybe there's a means of,
Yeah,
I'm not certain
register.
what the sign up
Yeah,
process
you can
is, if
register.
it's closed. Oh, what?
No, I'm saying you can
Say what?
register on there. When you complete the application, it does ask you whether or not, you're bringing your loved one and if respite care is needed. So,
Okay. Gotcha.
yeah.
Good to know.
So, yep, I'm not exactly sure whether or not they've cut that off or not, but I do know that it is on the registration. And so, if you're planning to come to the conference, again, keep listening. There's going to be some information at the end for that. It is always a great conference, and I'm looking forward to being there, sharing in that, and hopefully those of you that are in our area will make your way to the conference as well. Kristin, thank you so very much for being on here with me. Thank you for enlightening myself as well as the listeners with what music therapy is and how we definitely can find healing through music. I concur with you 100%. It is a way for us to be able to connect with God. He created music and he made music in such a way that it has become healing. There are stories in the Bible, and since you brought God up, and I love him, and so I talk about him quite frequently on this podcast. So for those of you who may not, I don't apologize, but there are stories in the Bible. David, in particular, who played the harp when Saul was depressed, and he played the harp, and he was able to drive out that spirit of depression. And so music definitely is healing. And so when you add on the component of therapy to it, it is something that is being used to bring healing to a lot of people who need it. And so I applaud you for the work that you're doing with those, in the facilities, in the memory care, assisted living, and all those facilities, and just the work that your practice itself with Healing Hearts, the healing that you all are bringing to the hearts of the people here in the Tallahassee area. And so, I'm looking forward to maybe stepping into one of those respite care places where you are. I think they still have them on Tuesday, Thursday is when I would go, but I'm going to find that information out from you. And I'm going to look forward to stepping in and just, being a part of what you're doing with even our elders. I love it. I absolutely love the work that the Alzheimer's Project is doing, and just knowing that you're offering your services there is great as well. So thank you so very much. And as I stated before, we're going to put those YouTube's the YouTube sessions out there for the breathing for the caregivers. Please go out there, take advantage of it. We'll put all that information on the website because we want to be able to offer you as much help and resources and strength and everything we can through this podcast. And so I hope that you all have enjoyed listening to this episode of the My Favorite Girl Caregivers Corner podcast. And we look forward to sharing even more resources with you on the next couple episodes. So don't forget, go ahead, listen and subscribe on whichever platform you're listening on so that you can get a notification whenever the episode drops. And so we look forward to you listening to the next episode. Thank you again.
The Alzheimer's Project and partners invites you to the Alzheimer's Disease Education and Training Conference 2025. The conference will be held on Saturday, February 15th from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. and will be held at Florida State University College of Medicine. This will be a day filled with valuable information and training sessions on Alzheimer's disease. The conference aims to educate and empower attendees with the latest research, treatments, and caregiving strategies. Whether you are a healthcare professional, caregiver, or simply interested in learning more about Alzheimer's disease, this event is perfect for you. Register now and be part of this impactful event. You can register on Eventbrite at Alzheimer's Disease Education and Training Conference.